AITA for not telling my ex-wife that we lived in a rental apartment. By the way, our car is also rented. Back in 2008, I was fresh out of high school and starting university. You know how it is, life is so exciting, everything feels like a new beginning. And to top it all off, I managed to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center with my girlfriend at the time. She was my first long-term relationship, and we thought we'd found the perfect place. The apartment was cheap, especially considering it was in such a prime location, which was a total score for broke university students. Here's the thing, the owner of the apartment had lost her job due to the whole financial crisis mess, and like a lot of people back then, she decided to try her luck abroad. She just wanted to get out of the country and leave everything behind. So, when she offered the apartment for rent, she didn't care too much about making a profit, just needed some reliable tenants. We moved in with another couple, my buddy and his girlfriend, so the rent was split 4 ways. It was dirt cheap, and we were living the dream. University flew by, and after a while, my friend and his girlfriend decided they wanted a place of their own. No big deal, we all had full-time jobs by then, and it wasn't a stretch to cover the rent between my girlfriend and me, but not long after that, we broke up too. Classic, right? I mean, we were young, and life happens. She moved out, and suddenly I was left alone in this pretty spacious 2-bedroom apartment. For a brief moment, I thought, am I really going to be able to afford this on my own? But here's the thing, the rent was still incredibly low. It had barely gone up at all in those years, and I realized I could totally swing it solo, so I stayed. I didn't want to leave the place, it was home at that point. After the breakup, things got interesting. The owner, who was still living abroad and hadn't returned, got tired of dealing with the hassle of managing everything from another country. She basically trusted me with the place. She didn't want to be involved with bills, maintenance, or any of that stuff, so I handled it all. It was kind of like I was the landlord, even though I wasn't. I just paid the rent to her every month, dealt with all the bills, and she let me treat the place as if it were my own. We didn't even have a written agreement at this point. It was all based on mutual trust. Honestly, it felt like my place, and I started referring to it as such. I mean, who wouldn't after living there for so long and handling everything? I had the 2nd bedroom, which was basically unused unless friends from out of town came to stay. I didn't mind. It was nice having company here and there, especially when you live alone. Fast forward a few more years to 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, because why not, when I met this girl. She was different, and things moved fast. She was charming, beautiful, and we clicked instantly. We went from dating to living together faster than I had anticipated. By 2021, we were married. Now, here's where things get a little murky. For some reason, and I can't really explain this, I never explicitly told her that the apartment was a rental. I never said I owned it, but I also never said I didn't. The topic just never came up. I was so used to the fact that I had been living there for over a decade, managing the place as if it were mine, that it didn't even occur to me to mention that little detail. She moved in with me, and everything seemed fine. Life was good, or so I thought. But you know how it goes, the honeymoon phase doesn't last forever, and after a while, we started having our issues. Turns out we weren't as compatible as we'd hoped, and things began to cool down between us. Eventually, we had the inevitable conversation, and we both agreed that divorce was the best option. No drama, no mess, just 2 people realizing they'd made a mistake. At least, that's what I thought. We started doing the paperwork for the divorce, and she began making plans to move out. Everything seemed straightforward until, out of nowhere, I received this email from her. I was at work when it came in, and at first, I didn't think much of it. I opened the email, and there it was, an attachment, a real estate valuation document for the apartment. I blinked at the screen, confused as hell. Why would I need an apartment valuation? And then I read her message. She had apparently paid €500 for a real estate agent to evaluate the apartment, and now she was telling me that I'd probably need to take out a loan to pay her the 50% she was owed from the apartment's value. I immediately replied to her email, trying to keep things calm, even though I was completely baffled. I said something like, "I don't think I ever told you I owned this place. It's a rental. I've been renting it for years. Why would you assume I could afford to own a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center? You know where I work, and you know how much I make. I thought that would be the end of it, maybe some awkward back and forth, but she'd understand, right? Wrong. So wrong. She called me almost immediately, and when I answered, she was furious. I mean, she was yelling like I had committed some massive betrayal. She started accusing me of lying to her for years, saying I had deceived her by not telling her the apartment was a rental. I tried to explain that it wasn't something I intentionally hid from her. It just never came up, and in my mind, it wasn't a big deal. But she wasn't having any of it. She kept shouting about how I'd misled her and made her think we had this apartment together. Then she said something that really threw me off. She demanded that if I wasn't going to pay her for the apartment, she was taking the car instead. Now, here's the thing. We did lease a car together during our marriage, but it's a lease. The bank owns the car, not us. So I told her, as calmly as I could, you do realize that the car is leased, right? We don't actually own it. The bank does. That's when she really lost it. She started screaming that I'd lied to her about everything, not just the apartment but also the car, and how I'd basically been deceiving her our entire marriage. She even demanded that I pay her back the 500 euros she spent on the valuation. I told her, look, I didn't ask you to do that. You didn't consult me before you spent the money, so I don't see why I should be responsible for it. I mean, fair enough, right? She called me an asshole and hung up. Now, here's the kicker. She's been going around to our entire friend group, telling everyone that I lied to her for our entire marriage, making me out to be some sort of villain who tricked her into thinking I owned this apartment. And, of course, our friends have opinions. Some of them think I'm in the wrong, saying I should have told her the place was a rental from the start. Others are on my side, saying it wasn't a big deal and that she's overreacting. Our group chat has been blowing up with debates over whether I'm an asshole for not being upfront about the apartment. So after that explosive phone call where she called me an asshole and hung up, I figured, okay, maybe this is the end of it. Like, we've agreed to divorce, she's moving out, and surely this whole drama about the apartment being a rental would just fade away, right? Oh no, no, no. That would have been too easy. A couple of days later, I get this long-ass text from her. I'm talking paragraphs like a wall of text, and the gist of it. She's still demanding that I pay her back the 500 euros she spent on the real estate valuation. Apparently, in her mind, she was doing something that was in the best interest of both of us, and that I should have told her about the apartment being a rental from the start. So because I didn't, she feels that I owe her this money since she wouldn't have spent it if I'd been honest. Now, here's where things get ridiculous. She says that if I don't pay her back the 500, she's going to take legal action. Yes, you read that right. She's threatening to sue me over this. She claims that by withholding important information about the apartment, I somehow misled her into thinking it was ours and that the valuation was done under false pretenses, so now I'm financially responsible for it. I'm sitting there, reading this message, just in disbelief. I mean, we're getting divorced, and instead of focusing on separating amicably, she's gearing up for some kind of legal battle over 500 euros like, are we really doing this? I take a moment to collect my thoughts because, honestly, I'm floored. This is the same person I was madly in love with just a year ago, and now she's treating me like some kind of con artist. I start drafting a response, trying to stay calm, because my first instinct was to just be like, are you kidding me right now? But I decide to take the high road. I tell her, look, I didn't ask you to get the apartment evaluated. You did that on your own without talking to me about it. The apartment is a rental, and I've been paying for it out of my own pocket since we got together. You've never contributed to the rent, so I don't see why I should owe you anything for this valuation. I hit send, thinking that's a reasonable response, right? I mean, she never once paid a dime towards the rent while we were living together. I handled all of that. Sure, we split other bills like groceries, utilities, and the lease on the car, but rent, that was always on me. So why in the world would I owe her for something related to the apartment, especially when it's a rental? Well, of course, that didn't go over well. She shoots back with another text, saying that it doesn't matter if she wasn't paying the rent because we were building a life together, and she was under the impression that the apartment was part of that life. She says I let her believe we were co-owners of the place and that by not correcting her assumption, I misled her into thinking we were on equal footing when it came to the apartment. Now I'm just shaking my head. This is getting out of hand. I tell her again that I never once told her we owned the apartment and that I never hid anything from her. It's not like I sat her down and lied about owning the place. I just didn't bring it up because, in my mind, it wasn't relevant. And I stand by that. She never asked, and it never came up in conversation. Why would I go out of my way to say, "Oh, by the way, this place is a rental"? I figured it was obvious. We're not exactly swimming in money, and she knows how much I make. How could she realistically think I owned a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center? Anyway, she's not having any of it. She sends another message saying that if I don't pay her the $500, she's going to file a claim in court to recoup her losses. And now I'm just sitting there, completely dumbfounded. Court, over €500. For a real estate valuation on a rental property, I can't believe this is happening. She's really willing to drag this out in court over something so trivial. At this point, I'm fed up. I tell her flat out, go ahead and file whatever you want. I don't owe you that money, and I'm not paying for something I didn't ask for. If you want to take this to court, that's your call, but I don't see how you have any legal ground to stand on. That was it for the day. She didn't respond immediately, so I figured maybe she'd finally dropped it. But of course, I should have known better. The next day, I wake up to a barrage of messages in our mutual friends group chat. She's in there, telling everyone that I've been lying to her for our entire marriage, that I'm refusing to pay her back money I owe, and that I'm being completely unreasonable. She even says she's considering legal action because of how deceptive I've been. Now, the group chat is on fire. People are weighing in left and right, and it's turning into this massive debate about whether or not I was in the wrong for not telling her the apartment was a rental. Some people are on her side, saying that I should have been upfront from the start and that it's only fair I pay her back the $500 since she wouldn't have spent it if she'd known the truth. Others are on my side, saying that she's overreacting and that I don't owe her anything because she spent the money without even consulting me. My best friend, Mike, is in there too, and he's been backing me up, saying that it's ridiculous to expect me to pay for something I didn't ask for, especially when it's related to an apartment I don't even own. He's telling people that I've been paying the rent solo the entire time and that Sarah never contributed to that, so she has no claim to anything related to the apartment. But of course, Sarah's friends are jumping to her defense, saying that I was being deceptive and that I should have made it clear from the start that the apartment was a rental. But, of course, Sarah doesn't stop. She's relentless. A couple of days after the group chat debate dies down a little, I get an official letter in the mail. You guessed it, it's from her lawyer. She's actually taking this to court. I'm floored. I mean, part of me thought she was bluffing, just throwing empty threats around to get me to cave in and pay her. But nope. She's seriously suing me over the €500 for the real estate valuation. At this point, I'm done playing nice. I get myself a lawyer too, and we start preparing for what I thought would be a quick and easy case. I mean, how much could there possibly be to argue about? The apartment is a rental. She didn't ask me before getting the valuation. End of story, right? Wrong. The court date gets set, and the drama continues to unfold. Sarah, being the social butterfly she is, keeps talking to everyone in our mutual friend group, acting like this lawsuit is going to be her big victory. She's out there telling people that she's going to expose me for being dishonest and how this will teach me a lesson about keeping secrets in a marriage. She's got this weird narrative in her head that somehow she's the victim of some grand conspiracy, when really, she's just mad because she didn't get what she thought she was entitled to. The day of the court hearing finally arrives, and I'm ready to get this over with. My lawyer has reassured me multiple times that Sarah doesn't have much of a case. I mean, she can't prove any wrongdoing on my part. I didn't lie, I just didn't volunteer unnecessary information about a rental apartment, and I certainly didn't ask her to get it evaluated. So we go to court, and let me tell you, it's an absolute circus. Sarah's lawyer is trying to paint this picture of me as this shady guy who deliberately misled his wife into thinking the apartment was ours. They try to spin it like I was living some kind of double life, keeping all these secrets, and that I intentionally let her believe we owned the place so I could maintain control over the marriage. It's ridiculous, but they're really going for it. My lawyer, on the other hand, is cool as ice. He lays everything out clearly: how I've been paying the rent for the entire duration of our relationship, how Sarah never contributed to that, and how she made a unilateral decision to spend €500 on a valuation without even talking to me first. He makes it very clear that there was no deception, just a simple misunderstanding that could have been resolved with a single conversation if Sarah hadn't jumped the gun. Sarah's lawyer tries to argue that I should have been more transparent about the apartment being a rental, but my lawyer counters by pointing out that Sarah had never once asked about the ownership of the apartment, and it wasn't like I went out of my way to lie about it. It just never came up, and that's not something you sue someone over. It's not like I committed fraud or anything. The judge listens to both sides, and honestly, you could tell from their face that they weren't buying Sarah's sob story. I mean, it's €500 for a valuation on a rental property. How big of a deal can this really be? By the end of the hearing, it's clear where things are headed. Sarah's case is flimsy at best, and my lawyer's arguments are rock solid. The verdict comes in, and the judge rules in my favor. Sarah's claim is dismissed. But here's the best part. Not only does she lose the case, but the judge also orders her to pay me half of the amount she was suing for as a form of moral compensation for the trouble she caused. That's right, Sarah now has to pay me €250 for dragging me through this entire ridiculous ordeal. The look on her face when the judge announced the ruling, priceless. She was absolutely furious. I'm trying my hardest not to smirk as we leave the courtroom, but inside, I'm feeling vindicated. All of her blustering, all of her threats, and all of her drama had amounted to nothing. She went in thinking she'd win big and come out as the hero of the story, but in the end, she just embarrassed herself in front of everyone. Of course, after the ruling, the fallout continues. She's furious and goes back to our friend group, trying to spin the story in her favor again. She's telling people that the court was biased and that I somehow manipulated the judge into ruling in my favor. Like what? Most people see through it at this point, though. I mean, the facts are clear. I didn't do anything wrong, and she lost. Mike, being the legend that he is, just starts trolling her at this point. Every time she brings it up in the group chat, he's like, well, at least you don't have to pay the full €500, just €250. That's a discount. He's not letting her live this down, and honestly, I can't help but laugh every time. In the end, Sarah and I have fully separated. She moved out, took what was hers including the leased car, which is still technically owned by the bank, by the way, and we went our separate ways. We don't talk anymore, and our mutual friends have mostly stopped engaging in the drama. Life has finally started to calm down. All of this because I didn't explicitly state that I was renting an apartment. It's mind-boggling, but hey, at least it's over now, and I can finally move on. And as for that $250, I think I'll take Mike out for a few beers. He deserves it for sticking by me through all of this. So yeah, that's my story. What do you think, Reddit? Am I AITA for not telling her the apartment was a rental, or did Sarah just take this way too far? At least I got some closure, and €250 as a bonus.